Hey guys, what is up? Public here back with another Mythic raid testing video today, checking out Igira the Cruel. This is the second boss in the raid. Little different than what we did on Heroic. It was a little hectic. Like Naru, we were scaled to 462 item level here, so a little bit under what I think most people will be when they kill this boss. Although not too out of the question for maybe first kill perhaps, especially if you're talking about if you're going into Mythic week 1, it's open. Week 2 for sure. So yeah, kind of going through this fight, there are a lot of spears, just like Heroic. They do seem to come out more frequently in this first phase when you first pull her, or they do kind of fall off after that. But one thing that was very clear compared to Heroic is that you really got to be on top of spear damage here. I think part of this is because of the scaling and how off we were. We did start to get our rhythm down with it, but if you're not on top of killing spears ASAP, you're gonna have a rough time. You'll see at the end of the video where we had people dying, and you're getting double speared because you're not killing the first set of spears fast enough. So that felt a little crazy, although I do still think once you have more gear, that's just gonna fall off naturally. So not super concerning, but yeah. So even though this boss is mostly single target, I still took the same kind of Shadow Crashy build that I took on Gnarl Root, although I don't think you would ever consider going anything crazy like N'Zoth in this fight. So yeah, and that was mostly, I wanted Shadow Crash for the spears. I just needed a way to dot them quickly, especially because I think the first set on pull was spawning 10, 15 seconds in. And so it just helps spreading things out. Now, the big thing here, which is going to separate good groups and bad groups in regards to spears, is being able to quickly stack them. Even though the damage ramps up on Mythic, you're still able to take 2 spear hits at once. Maybe more. I was trying to use a defensive for every single one just because it does get a little dicey. But yeah, you can still stack them, and by stacking them, right, you'll get 3 groups of 2 basically, which makes it so much easier for the group to hit it. And we try to do them as a cluster around the boss. You can see sometimes we did a little bit better than others because as soon as if you're not confident with your movement, if you stack 3 on someone, they're dead without a major defensive. So gets a little dicey. And Shadowcraft was really helpful. You were able to get at least 2 dotted. Sometimes, if they're actually close enough together and they Venn diagram perfectly, you could dot 2 clumps of them if they do it enough. Although it was generally inconsistent. I did it a couple times, and sometimes if I landed perfectly in the middle, I would just hit none of them. So I usually was like, okay, I'll manually dot 4 and then Shadow Crash for 2 of them. Probably something to be optimized for, maybe with a week or when it comes out on live. But yeah, and Shadow Priest, it's going to look a little weird on the meter. Details does not show damage done to spears. But Shadow Priest, Devastation Evokers were absolutely cranking these guys, especially when we got them stacked up. When they were spread out, I was dominating. But once we figured out how to clump them together, things got reined in. People were more easily able to hit them. So Shadow actually does pretty well when they're all spread out like that. But anyway, so that's the kind of spear mechanic. Now, the rest of the fight, you're going to alternate between P1 and this intermission. And basically what happens is, in the intermission, there are 3 weapon circles that you can soak. Now, unlike Heroic and Normal and all the other difficulties, the one that you soak determines that, she's going to pick that mechanic to go into the next phase. On Mythic, instead, you're picking the one that you don't want. And then you get the other 2. So you always get 2 in every single phase. And you can see some of these overlaps were quite nasty between the soak circle, the healing debuff, and then I think it was the axis. Yeah, something like that. There's 3 of them. So yeah, we moved around and tried different rotations. The kicker though is that every time you go into an intermission and come back, she does increase damage. So the fight naturally gets harder. So there is a school of thought of okay, maybe we should do the harder ones first and save the kind of easier combinations for the end of the fight when she's doing more damage. Otherwise, you're kind of getting unlucky a little bit. So that's kind of the strat that we more or less landed on. We didn't end up killing it on Mythic difficulty. I think we got to 18% or something. We definitely could have. I think we were just trying to see more of the overlaps and mechanics and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting fight in the fact that you get to kind of pick what you want to do, but you do have to pick each one time. So you can't just always go to the same circle in the intermission. You do have to rotate around, and eventually, like you can only soak each pile once, and then it's gone forever. Meaning the fight does kind of have like a hard enrage of you can only have 3 intermissions and then you're done, which can be I think again at our item level made the fight a little bit harder than I think it should be otherwise. But again we're kind of messing around and trying to see like different combinations and seeing like how things work together and kind of figure out different strategies. So yeah, I think the fight has a lot of fun parts going on with that, and I think really from like a positioning standpoint, there's a lot of interesting choices to be made, like from the raids perspective. So yeah, and the other thing to note in the intermission, you can actually only soak one time, basically throughout the entire fight. So which is a little dicey there because if you're not paying attention and you accidentally step into the circle, you're now screwed up for the rest of the fight. You can't soak anymore. So. It is something to keep in mind. I think it killed me on one of our polls. So you basically have to split the raid group up into 3 groups to assign who's going to soak which one during the intermission. You can't just have the same people soaking every time with like immunities or something like that. That won't work. So yeah, and the rest of the fight again, it's going to be kind of dependent on which mechanics that you choose between the heal absorb, the soak, and then the massive circle that's coming out in the raid. As a priest, I felt pretty good on this fight. One, because I was really good at handling spear damage. The other reason why it was nice is when the whole raid soaks, they're stunned basically, and the only way to get that off is to dispel it or to wait it out. So what we did in this group was super helpful, actually. One of the few uses, I think, for Revival, the healers were kind of making fun of Revival as a cooldown, but Revival was able to dispel off all the stacks. So what we did for the soaking mechanic was we had the entire raid, except the Mistweaver, soak on set 1. So only the Mistweaver got the bleed, because anyone that doesn't soak, you get this nasty bleed. And then he would Revival it off of everyone, so that set would be free. And then there's a second set that we have to go through, and that set we use Mass Dispel from the Priest, and then I was able to Stone Form it off. So a lot of good Priest utility in this boss, which is fun too. And I think in general, Shadow Priest felt pretty fun on the boss, and I think it's a good boss overall. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. It's just kind of a quick preview of what it's going to be like on Mythic, and we'll catch you next time for the next video. Thanks for watching.